What's up, folks? It's absolutely fantastic to be live again. So, the social media efforts amongst political campaigns and organizations, let's just say we all know they're crucial these days. And it is absolutely fantastic to see organizations like the Maine GOP stepping up. We look at it, there's a ton of posts up on Instagram alone that have happened all within the last year. If we scroll back, there was a time period where January 21st, 2019 was the last time the Instagram page run by the Maine GOP was used. So we're looking at years upon years of nothing, absolutely nothing coming from this organization. And we need strong outreaches to people to win elections. So, looking at it this way, this is a strong success, and I'm happy to see constant posts coming out to reach people, especially people my age. If you look at my metrics, at least in terms of who likes posts, Instagram, it's a lot of younger folks. It's a lot of people that are fellow Republicans, Turning Point members, and young conservatives. On Facebook, it's a much broader range. So, if you want to reach people my age, which I think a lot of this is geared towards that, keep doing what you're doing. There's been a strong outreach on Facebook, Instagram, X from the Maine Republican Party. I am very happy to see this. We're also seeing strong outreaches coming from Republican candidates. Every Republican candidate in the gubernatorial race, for the most part, is doing a fantastic job on social media. The social media efforts from Governor LePage have been pretty decent. We've seen extremely good efforts from the gubernatorial candidates. We're seeing really good outreaches from the Maine GOP. We're seeing it from private people, too. We got Chuck Ellis with the Muddy Waters podcast. Great guy, doing a great job with the Muddy Waters podcast. I've been pretty active on social media with campaign work and posts regarding specific issues like yes on one and no on two. But I haven't uploaded a podcast episode for, almost 2 years, if not more, until yesterday. Yesterday was the first time I've uploaded a podcast episode in quite a while. So I'm very happy to be doing this again. We are going to make sure that Republicans win in 2026 here in the state of Maine. We have a lot of great Republican leadership. We've got folks like Billy Bob Fockingham, Jim White, Chad Perkins, Stacey Gearin, a lot of great representatives. And I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. Chad Perkins, he is running for the state senate from the Dover-Foxcroft area. So towns like Levant, all the way through Greenville, those are all, yes, that would be the senate district. So yes, that'll be his district all the way through that area. We need to make sure we get him elected. Chad Perkins, terrific guy. He'll be fantastic for this state. So, very much looking forward to seeing what's coming over the next election cycle. Now, on one of my posts, I mentioned that I'm going to be down in Virginia. So, what am I going to be able to do? Well, going to be active on social media. I'm still going to be a Maine resident, so going to be active on social media, making posts for people like Chad Perkins, making sure he gets elected, supporting the Republican causes here in the state of Maine. I've made my concerns very clear regarding disagreeing with some of the decisions made down in D.C. So, I am still a proud Republican. I will continue to vote that way. My faith demands that I do. Being a born-again Christian and analyzing Christian values, analyzing biblical values and biblical teachings, that aligns with voting Republican. When you get to the ballot box, you can't vote for a Democrat and be a Christian. They just don't align. Doesn't mean I have to be 100% supportive of everything that happens down in D.C. all the time. So, but bring it back to the state of Maine. Republicans around here, for 99% of the time, are doing a fantastic job. Absolutely fantastic job. And they know they need to hold the line. We've had, would have been early 2019, Governor Mills was elected, and we've been on a downhill spiral since then. Some people ask me, do you agree with anything regarding the Democrats? they don't ask that specifically, but especially when I'm knocking doors campaigning for candidates, sometimes people are looking for unity. I can give Governor Mills credit. She loosened the restrictions regarding fishing during the pandemic. I support that move. It was absolutely fantastic she did that. People were struggling, and they needed that liberation. But abortion all the way up till birth, far-left LGBTQ ideologies, her being in support of that is insane. She said she wouldn't raise taxes during the 2022 campaign for her re-election. And I remember this specifically. It was one of the debates with Governor LePage. She said that openly. But then we have new taxes proposed earlier this year. Okay, so I guess that means she's a skilled politician, because by that logic, she's still going to bring in tax revenue, but she didn't technically raise the taxes that were already there. So, yeah, she's been an absolute train wreck. We need new leadership in Augusta. So, very much excited to see what's going to happen there. Got some great candidates running. We've already got great incumbent candidates. There's suspicion of Billy Bob Falkingham, the representative from down on the coast, the Ellsworth area, running for higher office. He would do a great job in higher office. I don't know if I don't want to lose a great representative who wins that area pretty well. So if he does run for higher office, I'm not against the idea. But at the same time, we don't want to lose good people that are in their current positions. So we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm supporting Governor LePage, but I wouldn't be against someone to jump into that primary. And here's what I say to this. This is not an anti-Governor LePage statement necessarily, but we need more media attention for that race. So if we get one or two other candidates that are rock-solid Republicans, dedicated people, to run for that congressional seat, what it'll do is force these Republicans to battle it out with each other, be more hardcore on their stances, and then it'll also generate more media attention. You know, when you're running a campaign or working for a campaign, you're always trying to get your candidate more publicity and make sure people know what your candidate stands for and is fighting for. But if you get good media attention, that means on top of your efforts that you're already executing, the media is helping you. So let's say we had Billy Bob Falkingham and Governor LePage absolutely hashing it out, but with an agreement that they back each other at the end of the race. That is going to generate natural media attention. And especially with this race, with Jared Golden dropping out, there's a pretty clear path to victory. So whether it's Governor LePage or Billy Bob Falkingham, I'd be okay with it. I saw the news that Representative Laura Libby doesn't plan to run for higher office. She would have been another person that I would have hoped would have jumped into that race. I'm kind of disappointed she isn't doing that. To have a 2 or 3-way primary between really good Republican candidates to go for that seat would have been, in my opinion, absolutely fantastic, because we could have supported any one of those candidates fully, comfortably, and sent them to D.C. no matter who won. So, too bad that didn't happen, but it's not the end of the world. Speaking of Governor LePage, I am very excited to see him here in Dover. He's going to be at Pat's Pizza, I think, tomorrow. Let's see. Today's Monday, so it'll be tomorrow at noon, Pat's Pizza in Dover. So if you're in the Piscataquis County area, I encourage you guys, if you have time, come see Governor LePage at Pat's Pizza. It's going to be terrific. I'm going to try to make it down there myself, get a video with him, talk with him. I did a very similar video back up in Presque Isle there for the Potato Blossom Festival. I had a fantastic time. Got to ask him just basic question of how are you going to make Maine great again from D.C., and he gave me just a basic rundown of what we can do. So going to be terrific to see him, be able to get a photo with him, hopefully get another one of those type videos. He's going to be able to talk with constituents. And I guess this is another thing I'm blessed by with him being in this race, and I'm blessed by seeing this race broadly speaking, is, I mentioned this on the last live, I think, sometimes my area of the state, Piscataquis County here in Maine, gets skipped over. We're known as the Red County. It's why the Piscataquis County Republicans on Facebook are called Red County Republicans. I'm pretty sure back when Obama ran for office, we were the only county in the state of Maine that voted Republican. So, it's a pretty conservative county. Therefore, a lot of Republican candidates will skip over this county, broadly speaking, in terms of campaigning, because they know they've already got it, and they'll focus on other areas of the state. Here's the error with that. Let me say this first. Do I think you should spend all your time in Piscataquis County if you're a Republican candidate? No, because from their perspective, part of it's right. They do have a pretty good shot at winning this county. But if you skip over it entirely, or close to entirely, you're not rallying up your base the way you should be. Therefore, make a long story short, if you lose votes in another part of the state of Maine, Piscataquis County has a good shot at making up for it. So say you lose some votes in Bangor. If you rally up the base in Piscataquis County, whether it's 10 votes or 100 votes, there's a good chance Piscataquis County and other red areas in the state can make up for it if you rally up this part of the state. We need that. We need a strong, rallied up base. Right now, Governor LePage is smart to come to Maine, where we're not too close to the election itself. We're a year out. Rally up this base, get media attention, talk with local businesses. He's really smart to do this. He played a similar move back in 2022. I think it was too early. It would have been, pretty sure, spring or summer of 2021, before he announced his campaign for governor there in 2022. He stopped at the Red Maple in Guilford. It's great to see that he did it, but it was too early. We're at a point now where we're about a year out, just under. Now everyone's looking towards 2026. So I think we're in a pretty good position. If he rallies up support from his base this way, Governor LePage's campaign, broadly speaking, can be very successful. And especially where some races are looking tighter than we would like them to be from other parts of the nation, having a dedicated Republican in this seat won't be a bad thing, broadly speaking. So, looking forward to seeing how that race goes. Once again, since I'm going to be out of state, but still a registered Maine citizen, Maine voter, I will be active on social media, backing up Republican campaigns here in the state of Maine. While I'm in Virginia, some of you guys might wonder what I'm doing down there. I'm going to be active with the Liberty College Republicans and Turning Point. I'm going to be very active with them. Going to make sure that Lynchburg, Virginia is a Republican stronghold for the state of Virginia. There's only a few states here in the U.S. that do their state elections on off-year elections. And by off-year, I mean no federal elections. So Virginia will have elections for the House of Delegates, the Senate, every couple of years. But there's no federal elections. They had that election back on November 4th. The results were not what we wanted to see. We need to change that. In 2021, Governor Youngkin won. He did a terrific job. We need to bring election results like that to Virginia again. So if we can make Virginia a Republican stronghold, which that state isn't that far from doing it. The pendulum swings pretty hard there in Virginia, but there are enough people to make that state a moderate red state. So I'd say Republicans down in Virginia, get off your butt. Get active. Be vocal. Cut through the lies of the media. And same thing here in Maine. I'm talking about Virginia specifically. This goes for both states. I've lived in Virginia before, but I've lived in Maine 99% of my life. I was born and raised here. We can make these states moderate red states or Republican strongholds. The state of Maine has a really good shot at it. We lost the last election in terms of the House and Senate by 1% or just below that. We were very, very close to making Governor Janet Mills a lame duck governor. And as some of you know, I was the former Maine GOP vice chairman. And I remember Chairman Stetkis saying that was the campaign pitch of make Janet Mills a lame duck governor. People do not like Governor Janet Mills. And Virginia is in for essentially a younger version of Governor Janet Mills. They elected the younger Janet Mills. And so while I'm down there in Virginia, if people ask me about my opinion on the current governor, or the governor-elect in Virginia, I'm going to tell them, well, I grew up in Maine, here's what Governor Mills has done, bing, bang, boom, give them the whole list, and say, hey, you've got a younger version in this state. Have fun. And I'm not happy that Virginia's in that state, but it's going to cause a wake-up call. People are going to see, oh, can we get Governor Youngkin back? They're going to miss him. And heck, if I decide to stay in Virginia, I'm going to miss him. Because right now, it's so expensive to live here in the state of Maine, I don't know if I can stay here. Reality is, I do want to get back into something regarding social media. The Maine GOP made a post on X earlier. Says, U.S. Senate candidates who support protecting girls' sports. Okay, let's analyze the three. This is a point I've made before, and it's true. I'm glad they're highlighting it. Doesn't surprise me they are. It's a pretty easy campaign topic. Graham Plattner, X. Janet Mills, X. Susan Collins, checkmark. So you look at the three major candidates, the only three candidates with a shot of winning. Susan Collins is the only one who actually wants to defend women. Let me ask you this. Janet Mills, not too long ago, you mentioned in relation to your campaign that you were fighting for your granddaughters. Something to the extent of if you didn't do everything in your power to fight for your granddaughters. If you want to fight for your granddaughters, why aren't you fighting to protect their sports? Republicans aren't perfect, but Republicans want males out of women's sports. And if you're a man, you agree with that. But the reason I make the specification is you're not a man if you're in a woman's space. You're a male. There's a clear difference. And when this really became a hot topic issue earlier this year, I remember at one of the rallies we went to, one of the people who spoke actually pointed out how many men were in the audience regarding, we don't want our wives and our sisters and our daughters to have to put up with this insanity. That's men. But someone who wants to take trophies away from women and compromise their safety is a male. It's a clear difference. And so you want someone who's going to fight for those women in the United States Senate? That's Susan Collins. Once again, let's keep going through some of the social media efforts they've made. The social media game for the Maine GOP has been pretty good for a while now. Let's see, let's find another one. They've done a really good job calling out Graham Plattner. You know, he kind of makes it easy, but they've done a really good job keeping up with Graham Plattner, calling him out, and making sure that, well, between calling him out and making sure that the GOP is getting the funding and the publicity they need to help win elections, they're doing a good job with that. I'll give them 100%. Really happy with it. Graham Plattner lies, claiming to be working class, calling him out on stuff related to that. They've done a good job reposting stuff from the Maine Wire. That's another thing. Working with other organizations that are doing a great job. The Maine Wire is one of the only sources here in Maine that you can get a conservative side of things from, at least in terms of big media outlets. You go to News Center Maine or WABI, you're going to be hard-pressed to find that. You go to the Bangor Daily, you're going to be really hard-pressed to find anything that's right of center or even center. So that's good to see. I'm really glad the Maine GOP is doing what they need to do to skyrocket the quality of their social media game. I already mentioned earlier the Instagram side of things. That is terrific to see. We went about 6 years almost with not a single post on Instagram. Now we're at the point where stuff is actually getting done. They've actually started a podcast. I don't know how I missed this. I didn't mention it earlier. They started a podcast called the Wicked Smart Podcast. And great. The more we can do to have our own media space, because we're not going to get proper coverage on left-wing mainstream media, good. We got the Muddy Waters podcast. The Christian Civic League is stepping up their game. I'm on here. We are making sure that there's a red wave in 2026. So, very happy to see this. Really happy to see stuff, like I said, from the gubernatorial candidates too. The conservative movement, we learned from just a few years ago. Especially in 2022, nobody was on social media. Nobody. And okay, that's a bit of a broad generalization, but when I actually worked for the Republican Party in 2022, we were required to be on X, or Twitter at the time, and that's it. And we had a pretty well-organized operation there between Maine GOP posts, but especially the candidates' posts. And really, the biggest thing we did was document our operations out on the field. When we were knocking doors, making phone calls, we publicized that. But it was only on X. That was our only requirement. That might have worked 10 years ago, but that's 10 years ago. So a lot of campaigns have realized, okay, the media space is different than it used to be. We're not going to get the same coverage that the left will get with the mainstream media, but we've got a shot at boosting our publicity and boosting our shot at interacting with people on social media. So, fantastic job to the candidates running for governor, especially those candidates. Really happy to see that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that changes the game. So, very much encouraged. Seeing the Christian Civic League step up, that's really cool. I know, well, actually, one of the things they've done, they've actually brought pastors on to talk on their social media, and not just certain pastors from certain denominations. I've seen, I go to Calvary Chapel here in Dover Foxcroft, Calvary Chapel, Maine Highlands, but it hasn't just been Calvary pastors. It's been a pastor from Cross Point, a pastor from Different Baptist Church, a pastor from Calvary Chapel, a huge range of pastors from multiple different denominations, all looking to spread truth with a trusted Christian organization trying to spread light to the rest of our state. Absolutely fantastic to see this. And if you guys can't tell, I use the word fantastic quite a bit. I'm used to it, but some people are like, dude, why are you mentioning the word fantastic so much? So get used to it. So fantastic to see these. I just did it again. Absolutely amazing. There, I switched it up to see these efforts made. I am very encouraged. I am looking forward to seeing the campaign strategy going forward with some of the gubernatorial campaigns and the congressional campaigns. Earlier, I mentioned on a live earlier regarding Governor LePage has got a pretty clear shot, but say anyone jumps into that race, if that becomes a primary race, both the gubernatorial race there and the primary race with the congressional campaign, I'm interested to see the strategy. Like I was doing earlier, scrolling through the X page for the Maine GOP, Governor Janet Mills taking shots at Maine. Doing it. That's not a good campaign strategy. You're not going to win voters over with that. You might get some attention, but her getting alcohol dumped all over herself, that's not a good campaign look. You know, Bruce Poliquin, he could show up to a hockey game, enjoy a hockey game, get a good photo, and move on. He could talk to voters. He could go to the hockey game, get the conversations done, enjoy the game, get a good photo. It was good for the campaign. It was good for the people, good for morale, and move on without looking like a foolish drunk. Janet Mills shows up, and she's not relatable. She doesn't know how to campaign. Now, well, there's a slight exception to that. She knows how to campaign to keep herself in office, but not campaign to be relatable. And making yourself look like a drunk, that's just foolish. So, as much as I'm dissing on her, keep it up, because it helps us. So, if you want to keep giving us really easy campaign topics, keep it up. The Democrats have been doing that quite a bit recently here in the state of Maine. Between Shenna Bellows ripping Trump off the ballot a couple years ago, that was the immediate green light to us noticing, okay, she could be running for future office, or she's just a moron. Okay, yeah, she's trying to run for governor. But it's pretty easy to say, okay, you've got a few Democrat candidates on that side of the aisle running for governor, and one of them supports abortion all the way up till the moment of birth, far-left LGBTQ ideologies, and wants to bring more taxes in. Okay, so that doesn't sound like a great candidate. That's Governor Mills. She's running for Senate. So that's what we're going to get with Hannah Pingree if she gets into office. Then with Shenna Bellows, we're still going to get more of that, and we're also going to get probably a more tyrannical role. Then Angus King, who, I don't know. That one strikes me as interesting, because you'd think he'd be doing better than he is, considering he has his father's name. Angus King he's got a pretty good shot at winning most statewide races. He built a name for himself. People know his name. And yet, this new Angus King, he hasn't skyrocketed in the polls. And I think it's an issue, it might be this right here. I could be wrong. But the 1990s Democrat brand is dying. The new brand is socialism with a paint job on it. Socialism with a paint job, meaning you've got Zoran Mondami, Platner. There you go. Those folks. That's the new brand of Democrat. And there were some that could fit in between. You've got Governor Mills that kind of rode the wave in, but still, she is closer to the Bill Clinton type of Democrat in terms of public persona, not necessarily policy, than Graham Platner is. You've got folks like Shenna Bellows, who fits. She's got the toxic. She just is awkward and toxic. That's how she said. That's how she comes across. You can't see a clip of her without cringing half the time. She's not relatable. She's done a successful job getting to the office she is, but she's not relatable. You cringe when you listen to her. And she has the toxic feminist attitude. And so I don't think she's got... She rode that wave of the same energy that gave the Me Too movement energy. I think she kind of fits in with that energy. She rode that wave. I don't necessarily know if she rode that wave to be politically successful, but she fits in with that group of voters. So, okay, you've got the toxic feminist energy. You've got someone who is at the tail end of the Bill Clinton wave, trying to ride the energy of being a woke Democrat, and Angus King, who just seems like a 90s Democrat. He might be able to pull off that look. It might help him with certain sections of the more moderate Democrat base here in the state of Maine. But even being an older state, the state of Maine is moving in the Democrat side of things further left. You've got to fit in with the newer brand, and he hasn't done it. Hannah Pingree, I think she's the younger version of Janet Mills. That's the easiest way to put it. She's hard to mix into. I think that's another thing, too. Angus King has statewide recognition. So you'd think the new Angus King would be able to fit in using that name and get more name recognition. Doesn't seem to be successful, which shocks me. Hannah Pingree, even though her mother is the representative for Congressional District 1, unless you're in the political world or unless you live in Portland, I don't see a lot of people around here genuinely knowing who Shelley Pingree is. And that's not their fault. She's not our representative up here in the northern part of the state. But people up here don't care who's representing Portland. They just know that that section of the state is the section of the state that is in lockstep with the insanity in Augusta. They've been lied to by the media, they've been lied to by the education system, and they've been lied to by failed cultural movements of the last 50 to 60, 70, 80, and in some, honestly, the last century has moved further and further left. And that section of the state, they've fallen prey to it. You know, I find, okay, if I ever ran for federal office, here's what would happen. The Democrats have pushed for Puerto Rico to become a state. I would say this. All right, you want Puerto Rico as a state? Do this. Take Congressional District 2 of the state of Maine, make it its own state too. We would be a moderate red state just like that. And I have spent years campaigning against Jared Golden. I don't hate the guy. On the campaign trail, you gotta be aggressive, but I don't hate the guy. And has he done things that I don't agree with? Yeah. But at the same time, out of all the Democrats down in D.C., if you were going to have a conversation with someone who'd actually discuss things with you and listen to you, he'd be the one. He and John Fetterman are of the few people on the left side of the aisle that would genuinely have a conversation with you. So, he's that person that, you know what, take politics aside. I don't drink beer, but I drink Moxie. I'll have Moxie with him. Cool. Let's do it. I go into all that to bring it back to, even if we still had a representative like Jared Golden, we would be doing better than the way we are now. So, I don't think it's a crazy idea to take CD2 if the Democrats want Puerto Rico as the 51st state. We'll make CD2 the 52nd state. I'm okay with that. It definitely would be a culture shock. It definitely would make a big difference. But it would also mean that a select, small part of the state isn't dragging down the rest of the state. You come up here to Piscataquis County, the red county, the county I was born and raised in and live in now. You rarely, except for one strip of Dover Foxcroft, you rarely ever see a Democrat sign. You rarely ever see it. You'll see a few, but broadly speaking, you'll see Trump signs up the wazoo. You'll see Republican signs for great candidates we've got like Jim White and Chad Perkins and other folks. Those guys win by astronomical numbers. And even the Democrats that run against the Republicans here, they're moderate. There's a guy, I can't remember what his name was. He ran against Chad Perkins back in 2024. He wasn't a bad guy. Once again, kind of the dude that you want to have a moxie with, have a good time. Politically, even hearing some of his political views, some of them were whacked up in my opinion, but the vast majority, we either agreed on some things, didn't agree, or agreed completely. There was a lot of unity, and there was civility between the candidates. Well, some of us actually didn't think Representative Perkins should do a debate with him, and we ended up doing it, mainly because the organization that put on the debate we have some qualms with. But Representative Perkins wanted to do the debate, and we know he's got the stuff. He's a great guy. He's smart, so really wasn't much they could throw at him. And watching that debate, things went well. It was kind of refreshing to see a Democrat and a Republican. They weren't sacrificing their morals, but they agreed with each other in some areas. They didn't hate each other. And you look at that attitude, except for on the Facebook comment section, a lot of people are pretty united here in the state of Maine, especially in the northern section. If CD2 ever became its own state, culturally speaking, it would be a great state to live in. Now, before anybody goes crazy and says I'm advocating for the state of Maine to split up, I don't think we should split up unless it really has to come down to that. Maine Mama's putting the southern with the thumbs down. Yeah, no. The southern part of the state is lost. And what's sad, too, is a lot of us Republicans are pretty quick to bash the southern part of the state. There are a lot of Republicans down in southern Maine that are great people. And they're so swamped by far-left ideologies that are dominating that part of the state. There are great people down there. It was funny. Well, there was a Calvary Chapel Pastors Conference down at Calvary Chapel, Greater Portland there. It's maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes from the mall there in Portland. Great church. And I was down there a couple months ago for the Pastors Conference. It was kind of nice to show up in a flannel, show up in boots and jeans, and not be the only one. I'm down in Portland every couple months, because I got epilepsy doctor's appointments down there. And the culture is quite different. When I get back home, I see less Priuses and I see more F-150s and more Tundras. I kind of like that. Maine Mama, let's see what she said. We can split right down the middle from Augusta South. Yeah. I'm willing to say just the congressional districts, but we'll do what we got to do if it ever comes to that. If we get another term of Democrat governor, another 4 years of that, it's going to be brutal. At the very least, we need to get a majority in one of the bodies of the legislature to slow things down. But if it continues the way it is, that's going to be absolutely brutal for the state of Maine. It hasn't been pretty for a while. So I encourage you guys, lock in, shoot as many follows to conservative accounts as you can. Let's make sure we make Maine red in 2026. With a Republican majority in the House and the Senate, we can reverse a lot of the garbage that's been pushed. It won't be that hard. And I know a lot of us, sometimes, especially on the base of the conservative side of the aisle, have been a bit annoyed with some of the things that have happened in D.C. But a lot of the good things that have come have been through some of President Trump's first executive orders. We can use the same style of legislation early on with a Republican governor. The executive order can be used to reverse a lot of the garbage here in the state of Maine that's been passed. With the Republican majority in the House and the Senate, we can pass legislation to reverse far-left legislation like LD 1619. I'm as pro-life as they get, but if it has to come to this, let's at least get abortion legislation brought back to where it was just a few years ago. Let's get rid of the far-left garbage that's been pushed. Have you signed the petition to protect girls' sports yet? It was a very busy day when I'm pretty sure I signed it. Oh, shoot. Would have been the gubernatorial questioning forum there at the Civic Center. But I've got a buddy with the organization, and I need to double check with him because I can't remember for sure if I have. I need to, though. Buddy of mine, I saw he posted, Senator Susan Collins signed it, though. So there's a lot of momentum there with that movement, which is fantastic. We need to get, like I said, males out of women's sports. If you're a male in women's sports, you're not a man. It's as simple as that. So I will double check. I'll actually shoot a message right after we're done the live and check. And if I haven't, I apologize. I should have. But I will make sure that that signature is signed. So, yeah. And you know what? That right there, that is fantastic to see that type of movement. It's sad to see that we have that movement. That should be basic logic. But the fact that there's so much momentum behind that is encouraging, and I love to see it. The fact that so many people are stepping up, locking in, and saying, you know what? This type of insanity, we're not supporting it. And it's not just the born-again evangelical Christians. And I'm glad to see that base has stepped up in many ways. But it's also just moderates. It's just people that say, hey, wait, hold up. You mean a dude can compete against a woman in sports? What? I was talking with a lady, and she asked me why people aren't happy with Governor Mills, why they don't like him. And I just gave her a rundown. And she was shocked. This is someone who wasn't in politics. But she was absolutely shocked. Her jaw just fell at the insanity that Governor Mills has pushed over the last couple of years. And you'd think as a woman, she'd step up for fellow ladies, but she isn't doing that. So that's a big thing we can do, is there is a large amount of people that don't care about politics, but ideologically and politically align with you. Out of my friend group, I'm the dude who's... I took a nosedive right into the deep end of politics. But there's a lot of folks that they don't want to do that. They don't want to be all the way in. But for you folks that don't want to be all the way in, I encourage you. Educate yourself. Look at the issues and say, hey, let's see, it's 2025, so the 6 years that Governor Mills has been in office, has Augusta done anything to help you? You might be able to name a couple things. They blocked CMP's efforts to jack our rates. Okay, good. Governor Mills loosened the restrictions. She got rid of almost all of them, pretty sure, back during the pandemic, at least for a little while, about regarding fishing. Okay, that was a good move. But that's like two things. You've had 6 years with a majority in the House and the Senate almost at least since 2022. You have no excuse. You've had the power. You've had the majority. Why haven't you made our lives better? Lower the cost of living. Make it so we can afford to heat our homes. Make it so we can afford to buy homes. I'm a young dude. And now DC is pushing the idea of a 50-year loan. If I took out a 50-year loan tomorrow, I'd be almost the same age as my grandfather by the time that 50-year period was over. Are you kidding me? So you want me to be in debt for the rest of my life? That's insane. Absolutely insane. So, guys, lock in. Talk to those people that don't want to necessarily be in politics and say, hey, if you're the political friend, talk to those people and say, hey, this is where it's been for the last 6 years. We've had the same party in power for 6 years. Has your life gotten better? And then next, list some of the absolutely insane things they've done. Common sense people will have their jaws drop. And then, before you have that conversation with them, make sure you know when voting day is and make sure you know who the major candidates are. So, by major candidates, I don't just mean governor. I mean congressional, gubernatorial, and with whatever district you're in, make sure you know who the House and Senate candidates are. So you can give those names to those folks. And if you're the political friend out of your group, or even just as a conversation in the grocery store that comes up, get ready to have those conversations, because people, when they hear the absolutely insane things that have happened over the last 6 years, like males and women's sports, they'll step up and go to the ballot box. So, yeah, I think, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's not overly incredibly difficult work. So, lock in, step up, be vocal, and we can make Maine great again. I encourage you guys, another thing you can do, be active on social media. There's folks like myself who we're not giant, but we're active. You can do the same. Step up, be vocal, share truth. You can make a difference. And then make your own post, but also like and post from organizations like either me or the Maine Wire, the Republican Party, directly from the campaign that you're supporting. You can lock in and make a difference. 90% of the people that have signed the petition are men. Yeah, exactly. There's a clear difference. Thank you, Maine, for pointing that out. I actually didn't know that statistic. So I haven't looked at it myself, but if that's accurate, that's really cool and really encouraging to see, not gonna lie. Because us men don't support this type of garbage. If you're a man, why would you support it? And it's not just in a dating sense, but as a man, I love women. I want to defend them. I've been raised that way. I've been raised in such a way where you do anything you can to defend everyone around you, but especially the women. That's just common sense, isn't it? So, seeing that statistic, that's really encouraging, and it proves what type of men we have here in the state of Maine. No state is perfect, but that's very encouraging for the state of our culture here in the state of Maine. The fact that we have that type of base here in the state of Maine to step up and defend young ladies and women abroad and the rest of society, that's awesome. And it's also good to see, well, there's a turning point coming. And yes, I say that somewhat as a pun, but here in the state of Maine, we lost the House and the Senate by about 1%. I think it actually was less than 1% last cycle. There's a turning point coming. I am very encouraged. I am looking forward to 2026. I'm getting signatures. My numbers are 90% women have walked through and are not signed. Wow. So, Maine Mama says that in her experience, a lot of women are leaving and not signing. How? Well, I guess it's the same reason our governor claims she's fighting for her granddaughters and then allows dudes in women's sports. That blows me away. And, you know, we need to be in prayer. Everyone tells me that I should keep faith out of, or keep religion out of politics. Nope, not going to do it. We need to be in prayer. I ask everyone this. Would we be in this insane of a cultural state if we had Jesus? No, we wouldn't. Turn to Jesus. Well said. And that doesn't mean force religion down people's throat, but it means spread truth, be in prayer, and let Jesus lead the way. Turn to Jesus. That's as simple as that. We need serious prayer. And if Augusta decides to turn to Jesus and say, hey, we're not going to pass legislation forcing you people to be a Christian, but we're going to pass legislation that is in line with Scripture, it's going to make Maine great. And people might wonder, what does in line with Scripture mean? Okay, well, it's a lot of things that we actually agree on. We shouldn't kill kids. Okay, yeah, cool. We should have the right to defend ourselves. I think we all agree on that. This is basic things. We shouldn't tell kids that they might be in the wrong body as kids. We shouldn't indoctrinate children. Okay. I'm not seeing where this biblically in line policy strategy is forcing religion down people's throat. You might disagree with me completely on the gospel, faith, Jesus, everything related to Christianity and religion broadly speaking. But if you disagree with me on the fact that we shouldn't kill kids and we shouldn't indoctrinate them in school, I think we got bigger problems than legislation in Augusta. It's as simple as that. So I encourage you guys, pray that Augusta would turn to Jesus, not to push religion down people's throat, but to pass common sense legislation. And you'll notice that common sense is found in Scripture. But there's accountability in Scripture as well. And people don't like that. Augusta doesn't like that especially. When you hold Augusta accountable, let's just say the folks that are entrenched in power do not like that. So, Turn back to Jesus. We'll get out of this insane, godless cultural state. I love my state, but we need to turn back to Jesus. You know, in one of my future lives, I'll find the clip. There's a clip of Charlie Kirk talking about essentially faith in politics. And he talks about some of the original, it was all 13 original colonies. Maybe it wasn't all 13, but it was a lot of them. You had to have a declaration of faith. I'm not 100% confident on this part, but I'm pretty sure you had to confess or profess to be a Bible-believing Christian. And then, if I'm correct, Charlie also stated that Maryland was Catholic, so it was just a profession of faith. I could be wrong on that, but I know broadly speaking, you had to have a profession of faith in order to serve in state government. It was either state or federal government, or both. Either way, to serve in government, you had to have a profession of faith from almost every single original colony. We have moved a long ways away from that. You look at a lot of the churches that are have older architecture. Being here in New England, there's a lot of older architecture inspired by architecture from 400 years ago. 300 years ago more. And now a lot of those churches, especially in the bigger cities, probably, they have rainbows on them. That's less of a legislative issue, but it helps explain where the far-left legislation is coming from. When your very sources of truth are no longer preaching truth, society will no longer believe truth. And eventually, when the sources of truth, the church, the Bible, the Bible is the source of truth, but the places that are supposed to be teaching that truth no longer are teaching truth, or they've perverted it, so perverted truth is a lie, no one else is going to have truth. And when people do share the truth, they're going to hate you for it. They're going to hate that truth because it offers accountability. There was a lot of words to essentially say we need truth, so I hope that was relatively easy to understand, but we need to turn back to God.